me start. Okay, this is going to be a long rant for you. Let me just say this. The first 2 days that I was sick, I did not sleep. So the start of my vacation, I couldn't sleep. And so I'm getting prepared for this trip. And I have to drive 4 hours into the mountains to go skiing, which I didn't go. And I feel like, and this whole time, I'm like, I'm going to feel better tomorrow. I go to bed that night, the night before the trip. Could not sleep. I'm waking up. You know when you're so sick that, like, you can't sleep? Like, your body wants to sleep, but you can't. Your nose is congested. Your throat hurts. You're coughing. It's like you can't get in a relaxing state to where you're able to fall asleep. That was me, right? And so I couldn't go to bed. So I'm like, whatever. Next time I'm driving, right? And I'm blowing my nose. And we're getting higher and higher into the mountains. It's getting dry, right? I've been blowing my nose all day. We're about an hour away. We're around these windy roads, right? We're in a different state. I don't like how people drive outside of New Jersey because I drive fast, right? I drive fast and dangerous. So when people are slow and annoying, I get angry, right? And so I'm driving, right? I blow my nose, and we're going down this hill. My nose starts bleeding. Bad. Like falling out of, like dripping down my face. Like, it looks like somebody punched me in the nose. And I start shoving tissues up my nose. It's bleeding through them. It's dripping everywhere. Brooks to my right. I'm like getting pissed. I start screaming at the people in front of me. I'm like, I look like an insane person, right? I look like a psychopath. And the Airbnb that we registered for, you can't just go to. You have to go to a front office, right? And I get out of the car when we get there, and I'm covered in blood. I look like I've killed somebody. And I'm about to go up to a security guard and ask for a pass to enter a neighborhood, right? And so I'm like getting water bottles that have been in my car. You know how you leave a water bottle in your car for like 6 months and it gets all gross? Like that. I'm like washing my face. People are staring at me. I walk in and it's hot as a bitch. I look like I'm dying, I might add. Like, you know when you're so sick you've been blowing your nose, it gets all red right here and you're pale? I look like a ghost. Like, I look like that kid that's sick from like the Campbell soup ads. Like, I don't know how to describe it. I can't find an image. I look like that kid, right? Where it's like he's pale and he has a really red nose. And they're like, oh, you need whatever. And it's some stupid fucking toilet paper brand or some shit. And he has problems wiping his ass or whatever. It's like a tissue ad. Yeah. Wait. Tissue ad, sick kid. This fucker. Oh my God. I looked like him. I looked like this kid. I needed Puffs Plus. And I had fucking 1-ply fucking toilet paper for tissues. Anyways. We get there, blah, blah, blah. I get the badge or whatever for me to fucking get it into the goddamn Airbnb. Let me tell you, the worst Airbnb I have ever stayed at in my entire life. There were 10 of us, right, at this place. 3 bedrooms. One of the bedrooms had 6 beds in it. And this is where the majority of the stories are going to be, in that bedroom, right? Because that bedroom was hell. I wasn't in that bedroom. I was in a bedroom with me, Brooke, and one of her friends, right? There were 2 beds. Me and Brooke got one. Friend got the other. That's key for what's about to happen, right? That night, I don't drink at all, right? Everybody's hammered. I'm like that one sober friend at a party. I'm like the DD, but I'm sick. Right? And we're not going anywhere. We're just at the house. So I'm the DD that's just sitting there, right? And I'm bored, right? Like, I'm not having a fun time. Not because it's boring, but I'm sick and everyone else is drunk. I'm like, whatever, right? Well, I'll be fine tomorrow. And I try going to bed. I can't, right? I can't go to bed. And so I take NyQuil. Right? Because I'm like, if I take NyQuil, this will knock me the fuck out. Surely. It doesn't. I take the NyQuil, I feel like I start hallucinating almost, right? Now, I may have taken more than the scheduled dose that they had told me to, but I was rocking off of 2 hours of sleep over a course of like a 24-hour period. And Brooke's friend is listening to a John Wayne Gacy documentary as I'm trying to fall asleep. If you don't know who John Wayne Gacy is, he is one of the most infamous serial killers that dressed as a clown. And it's dead silent in the room, right? And all I'm listening to is people talk about how John Wayne Gacy would fucking strangle people and like fuck their dead bodies. And I can't sleep. I'm sick. And I'm off NyQuil. And I'm like, I start breathing. I start having like a fucking panic attack almost. And so I'm like, fuck this. And I fall asleep. And I start dreaming that John Wayne Gacy is trying to kill me. And so I wake up. And then I don't go to bed for the rest of the night, right? That was my sleep. Next day, New Year's Eve, right? They go skiing. And I was supposed to go skiing. But I wake up, and I go, and a glob of snot comes out my nose. My throat hurts like a bitch. I still kind of am sick now, 5 days after the fact, right? And so I'm like, whatever. I'm not going skiing. The whole point of the first trip, we're going skiing, right? I didn't go skiing. We only went skiing one day. I didn't go skiing. We go, like the group of people that didn't go skiing, because not everybody went. We're like, hey, I'm starting to feel a little bit better, right? Let's go get lunch at the ski lodge. We pull up to the ski lodge, right? I'm driving. We park, and we're like, let's hike to the top of the mountain. Because they have a hiking trail, and when you get to the top, there's a restaurant. We get there, and it's closed! Oh, fuck! We get to the top. I haven't eaten all day, and they're not open. And I see snowboarders getting off the lift. I'm like, I'm 1,000 feet in the fucking air right now. And I'm nowhere near getting food. Fuck this. So I run back, and I sit in the car and wait. And the entire time back, there's a Russian family speaking Russian next to me. And all I wanted to know was what the fuck they were saying, because they kept looking at me. And I think they were talking about me. And so I'm like, fuck this. We go get food. Oh my God. Oh my God. I walk in. I'm like, where's the cashier? The lady goes, oh, you just scan your card and grab whatever you want. I go, oh, how do they know what I have? She goes, there's the cameras. And there's like 45 cameras at this fucking store or some shit. So, like you know how some things are like hyper advanced technology and you're like, why is this hyper advanced technology? It was one of those, right? Because instead of a cashier, they had a lady telling the people how this worked. And I was like, at this point, just fucking check people out. Like, what the fuck? But, like, apparently you scan your card, you grab something, and then it charges you. And so I'm like, okay, whatever. I scan my card, it lets me in. I grab something. I'm like, nah, I don't really want that. I put it back. This bitch comes out of the fucking blue. This bitch comes out of the fucking clouds. And she says, you can't put that back. I went, what? She was like, you grabbed it. And you put it back. She was like, it's going to charge you. So I'm like, I'm not allowed to look at the food on whether or not I want it. And she's like, no, the system's going to charge you. She was like, hold up, I'll fix it. I'm like, and she's like, you got to put it back in the exact position and it won't. I was like, that's so fucking stupid. And she starts yelling at other people. I'm like, fuck this. Fuck this. You know why I think they implemented that shit too? Because the last year I was there, one of my friends stole a Gatorade. And so I don't know if that's why they implemented that system, but I do remember last year my friend stole a Gatorade. So maybe that's maybe that's it was probably too easy for people to steal, so they were like, let's fucking implement something where they can fucking get people's money easier. Anyways, we leave, we go back, and I say to myself, I'm gonna drink tonight. Right? It's New Year's Eve. Right? I'm gonna drink tonight. I need to drink tonight. Alcoholic mindset, right? I'm like, it's New Year's Eve. I have to. And so I'm Googling whether or not I can take Dayquil and drink alcohol. and every website's like liver failure, kidney damage, death imminent. Like, do not mix acetaminophen and alcohol. And then I'm like reading this. And my EMT friend comes in, and he goes, just fucking take Tylenol. And he's like, just fucking take Tylenol. I'm like, it says, and he's like, I don't give a shit. And I go, okay. So I listen to him, right? And he's probably, even though he's an EMT, I don't think he has the best medical advice in that realm. So I take it, right? And I feel fine. I start drinking, right? We start playing this game that a lot of college students play. And we're all in college, so it's like, everybody wants to play it. Hold up, one more. We start playing this game a lot of college students play. It's called Death Cup, not Cup Pong. Death Cup, right? And it basically, here's how the game works. You have a cup in the middle and a bunch of cups around it. And then another cup, another bunch of rings, right? And in the first ring, you put a lot of light alcohol. In the second ring, you put something heavier. And in the middle ring, it's the Death Cup. And in the Death Cup is whatever the fuck you want to put in the Death Cup. Usually people put like 3 shots of alcohol, 4 Loco, and a beer or something like that. Like something really bad. And the premise of the game is that you have to stack the person to your right. You're both bouncing a ball into a cup. And if you get your ball into the cup before the person to your right does, you stack them and they drink, right? And you pass the cups around. There's a lot of other rules. Anyways, we start playing that. And some people suck at that fucking game. And if you suck at Death Cup, you are going to be hammered in 5 minutes, right? Because if you can't get it in on the first try, you are going to get stacked 7 times in a row. Because when you get stacked, the person to your right goes, and if they get a ball in first, they can pass it back to the person behind you, and you're not allowed to bounce the ball until you finish drinking. And so they can continuously just make you drink because you can't even play until you're done drinking. And so it's like a death loop, and it's kind of really unsafe, but a lot of people play it, and we played it. We're playing. One of my friends gets really drunk, and he ate an edible before we played the game. And as the night's going on, I'm looking at him, and I'm like, maybe you should stop playing the game. And he goes, yeah. And he sits down, and we start playing a card game, right? Like, we're kind of done, and he got his head, he has his head in his hands. And that's like a surefire sign to me that somebody's going to throw up, right? That guy's going to throw up. If you're sitting with a bunch of people and you're like this, like, you're, like, trying to not vomit. And he's, like, burping. And I'm like, that's weird, right? So I'm like, you should probably go to the bathroom. He's like, yeah, he disappears, right, for, like, an hour. And then, like, 4 of the guys that got too drunk were asleep. And they're in that big room that I mentioned earlier. And we have this big JBL speaker. You know the one that's glow in the dark? And it, like, it's, like, as loud as a fucking car speaker. I put it in their room, and I start playing this at full volume. I start playing monster noises, and then I start playing, Eat 'em up, eat 'em up, eat 'em up, eat 'em up, like some Reese's Puffs remix. And then, shit like that. Then the EMT guy walks up to me, because he's, like, one of the more responsible ones. And he's like, bro. I'm like, what? He's like, he threw up. The guy that was, had his head in his hands. I'm like, he's in the bedroom. He didn't throw up in the bathroom when I told him to go. He's like, no. I go in, and bro, there's vomit all over the bed. Like, everywhere. It's disgusting. And he's sleeping in it. And I, like, move him over. And I'm like, I tell him, He's not like blackout drunk. He just threw up. And I tell him, we're like, we're not cleaning this up. I was like, you got this tomorrow. And he's like, okay. And he just goes back to bed. And I kind of felt bad, but I wouldn't have played the music if I had known, right? And so we go to bed. And keep in mind, I forgot to tell you how shitty this Airbnb was. The steps were broken. If you stepped on the forefront of the step, it would rip out of the fucking boards, and there would be exposed nails just upwards. Like a Home Alone trap where you could just step on it. And so, like, the steps were like a safety hazard. And this was, like, really dangerous when people were drunk. And I almost was like, we need to contact the Airbnb owner and be like, this is, like, honestly, like how the fuck are you renting this out to people when, like, this is, like, a safety hazard, a safety issue. Also, the hot and cold on the shower was on backwards, and we just thought that there wasn't hot water for the first day. It was a whole fucking shebang. The heat didn't work. Moving on. Not as interesting. Next day rolls around. You know, we're chilling. I go kayaking. I'm feeling a bit better, right? People start drinking again. I'm just kind of chilling. I'm watching Mob Psycho. If y'all know that anime, people start drinking. I kind of catch in. I'm like, all right, you know, we'll start drinking. We start putting 4 Loko in. The lightest alcohol in the Death Cup game was 4 Loko, and that's what did me in. If you don't know what 4 Loko is, it's like 12. It's like wine, the percentage of wine, but it's like people chug it. And so we're playing with that, and one of my friends just lays down, and I'm like, "Are you good?" And this is my friend that, like, just blacks out on, like, 2 beers. Like, I've seen him black out on 2 beers, and I'm like, I always tell him he has to drink less. He only plays 1 game. He goes and lays down. I don't know when he drank that much, but he drank a lot. I wake, like, we're playing, right? We're sitting there. I'm kind of laying down. I nod off for a second, right? 30 seconds. I wake up. And then we start playing a game again, and we go into the room that he's in to check on him, and he is pissing on the bed. Not like peeing himself, like stood up and is just pissing on the bed. Like on the bed. And we're like, yo, like, what's going on? And he starts speaking gibberish. And I'm like, oh, this is not good, right? Like, this is where, like, he's not going to remember any of this, right? And he's gone. He's just peeing on the bed, right? He lays back, just pisses all over the bed. I wish I had the picture. I don't even know if I could show that. And so he's like a danger now, where it's like, we don't know what he's going to do next. And so we're trying to, like, take care of him. He goes to the bathroom. He's fine. He lays back down. They start asking him math questions. I start asking him math questions. I'm like, what's 8 times 7? And he's like, 56, dumbass. And then he just starts talking about, like, the Illuminati. And and I'm like, what the fuck? And so he's getting, like, all these, like, mathematical questions right. Like, I start asking him, not, like, basic, like, addition, like, actual math problems. And he's getting them right. But then he's like, what's the meaning of 5? And I'm like, what do you mean, what's the meaning of 5? He's like, what's the meaning of 5? And all this whole time, my other friend's like, dude, you know you peed on the bed, right? And he goes, dude, I didn't pee on the cookies. And that's when I just tuned it out. But that ends. We watch a horror movie. We go to bed. Blah blah blah. That's done. And then we go to a different Airbnb. Me and Brooke. Right. This is a whole different area. Right. Like 2 hours away. Right. And the first thing I notice is that everywhere in this area has slot machines. This is an image of the grocery store. The grocery store. And people gamble at the grocery store. Who the fuck goes to the grocery store to gamble? I didn't know that was a thing, right? Is this normal in where you guys live? This is in Vegas, right? I was like, I would get it in Vegas. Yeah, but I'm like, dude, every bar, every fucking restaurant, they have one slot machine, right? Pennsylvania Skill, right? That's not skill. This is a fucking slot machine with some old Western woman, and you could probably win like $5. Anyways, I'm kind of taken back by that because I didn't expect that, right? But that was like on the way to the Airbnb. Hold up. I wrote about down a bunch of stories that I wanted to tell you. I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, before we went there, we went to an IHOP and I almost watched somebody get stabbed. It was God, it's like every trip I go on, something crazy happens. We go into an IHOP. First time I've been into an IHOP in like 10 years. And we're like eating there before we go to the second Airbnb. As we're eating, these guys are walking out. And then, like, the manager follows them, like, a minute later. And they come in, and they just start screaming curse words. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And the waitress is like, you didn't pay. And he's like, yes, the fuck I did. And he's like, I tipped you, too. She's like, you paid. They both had two. It was two friends. They had two bills. They paid one of the two bills and tipped her, like, $2 on one bill and then didn't pay the other bill and left. And he was like, fuck y'all, bring up the fucking cameras. He starts like grabbing his pockets and shit. And I'm like, you know when you're getting ready to stand up, I'm like, I'm like ready to walk out the back exit. I start looking because like they're getting mad, like more mad than I've seen anybody get about a fucking at a fucking IHOP. And I'm like, I'm getting ready to fucking leave. Right, I need to get the fuck out of here before somebody gets killed. And they're like, the management's like, we're going to call the cops on you. He's like, do it. And they leave, they get in their car, and they, you know when somebody does like a peel out and it goes, it does that. And they almost crash into the building and then fucking zoom off. I'm like, all that for a fucking $30 fucking two eggs, two sausage, and pancakes. We get to the Airbnb. This is the fucking view, chat. It is fucking insane. This is from the window. From the window. Look at that shit, dude. Like, you could see miles. Fucking sick. I didn't even know it would be that good. I was just like, yo, we gotta get this Airbnb. Here's another one of this, like, lookout or whatever. Also kind of sick. Pretty cool view. I mean, you know, same background. Just woods and shit, but it's also dope. Oh, pick a me. Gonna be posting this up on the IG in a day or two. Gonna be the new little sneak peek. Me sitting up here. Look at the little fucking background. Oh, we also passed this cool temple in the middle of the woods. In the middle of the woods. It's fucking massive. Massive. I don't know if it's an active thing. I don't, because it looks dark, but I feel like it might just not be open. The trip with me and Brooke was nice. Back to my story. We wanted to go out to eat one night. Turns out, when you're in the middle of nowhere, going out to eat, not that easy, right? We drove to 4 separate places that all on Google said they were open, and they were all closed. And one of them looked like a death trap, and I took a picture of it. This place was called Rock Hotel, and they apparently had food. And this is what it looks like when we pulled up. And I said, that place doesn't look open. And then, keep in mind, on Google, it says it's open. This is the door. This is the front door. Now, if this doesn't look like somewhere you would get strangled to death, I don't know what does, right? And let me tell you, the only places we actually found that were open were the type of places that would have 2 beers on tap, right? And one of them used to be Bud Light, right? And now it's not because they don't like Bud Light. That's the places we were in. The places where it's like, yeah, well, we have 2 beer. We had 2 beers on tap, Miller and Bud Light, you know. But then Bud Light started associating with the homosexuals, right? So we had to get rid. So now we only have Miller, like that. That was the area we were in, right? Where they would stop serving that, and they had nothing at all. And no, it was like outside of that, it was a pretty sick trip. I mean, there wasn't really anything like monumental. Made some fire meals. I chefed that shit up outside of that because we were like, yeah, we can't eat out anywhere here because there's literally nowhere to go. And so we just chilled outside of that. It's pretty vibey. W trip. I'm glad I'm back, by the way, though, chat. You know, we're done ranting there. Oh, there is one more thing. Okay. One of the nights. Oh, no, I can't say this. Oh, no, I can't. I'll leave out a piece of the story. One night, I was off a certain drug that may be legal in this state that isn't legal in other states. And I was not shrooms. No, weed. I'll just say it. I was like, I want to watch a movie, right? I want to watch a movie. Let's watch something really shitty. And so we started scrolling on the worst movies list to watch. And let me tell you, chat, we came upon some real fucking gold mines. Hold up. Like Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Bong. Or another one was, I didn't watch this one. I kind of wish I did because I wanted to see what it was like. Velocipaster, which is a movie about a priest who becomes a velociraptor, or has the powers of a velociraptor and fights ninjas. And so, that, and then there was another one that we saw, Sharks of the Corn, which I also really wanted to see. And keep in mind, even though I haven't seen any of these movies, I will watch them at one point. Stephen Kang's Sharks of the Corn, it's about sharks in a cornfield. And I know that makes no logical sense whatsoever, but that's what makes the movie amazing. We ended up watching a movie called Ripped. And it was fire. It was a movie about two dudes who smoked CIA weed in the 80s and fell asleep for 30 years and then started a chili business. That's the movie. They smoked so much weed that they fell asleep for 30 years, woke up in 2016, and said, hey, let's start a fucking chili business. And that's what they did. And so that was a good movie. Anyways, I didn't even know a lot of these movies existed, but they do. And I found that out on this trip, and I thought that was very fascinating. All right, are y'all ready to get into the reacts today? I'm done with my little rant. How's the story this time, chat? You know, some stories are better than others.